Hi everyone, it's great to see everyone here on campus as well as online. It's been a long time. We were lucky enough to hold the symposium last year. And I suppose that's the beauty of COVID. We've learned to be a bit more flexible with things, and actually it's a great opportunity because today we have actually over 80 attendees. We've got 30 here, then we have about 50 online, and also we've got people from Florida, currently in London, people from Indonesia, as well as people from New Zealand. And so it's brilliant that it's well beyond just Queensland. We've got people from Melbourne and Sydney as well. So welcome, and we've got beautiful blue skies in Brisbane, which in 2022 hasn't happened much in Queensland, and so it's been a tough year for a lot of us. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land that we're meeting. That's the Turrbal and Jagera people here in Brisbane. And I'd like to pay my respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all other Indigenous Australians who are here today. Across Australia at the moment, it's NAIDOC Week, and that celebrates the history and culture and achievements of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And this year's theme is Get Up, Stand Up and Show Up. And it's arguing for systematic change and to keep rallying around our elders and our communities. And it's a really great chance to celebrate the diverse cultures and the rich history here in Australia, and particularly the achievements of our First People as the oldest continuous culture in this nation and around the world. The inaugural Queensland Tax Researchers Symposium was launched by Griffith 13 years ago in 2010, and we're proud to host the symposium again. We had one little break in 2020 because of a little pandemic, but the symposium's been a real joint initiative with the universities in Queensland. We've had James Cook University, University of Queensland, South Queensland, Queensland University of Technology, University of Queensland, and also we've had collaboration with the University of New South Wales at times as well. And so we've been from Cairns to St Lucia to the Shipping, and Gardens Point, and so now online, and it's a really great chance mid-year to catch up. Particularly, we're kind of the little baby brother sister of the Australasian Tax Teachers Association that meets up in January, and it's a good chance to meet friends, make some new friends, and really it's a great way now online to really expand our community. So in terms of Griffith University, tax research and tax teaching is a really important part of us. Griffith has leading tax academics, and I would say that, but we're here joined by Dr. Anna Mortimer and Dr. Melissa Bella-Isle. Can't see Melissa. Oh, there. Sorry. Yeah. We've done research in terms of tax literacy, or business cash flow, tax and road emissions, and also the tax issues facing Australian private enterprises. And also we've got PhD students. We've got Barbara Trad, who's finalising her PhD in terms of the influence of tax on business structure choice. And importantly, this research has been able to influence tax policy in Australia. We've had citations in the Henry Tax Review, worked with the Board of Taxation in terms of review with small business tax concessions. Melissa's worked extensively with the ATO in terms of small business and cash flow and things that can be done in that area. And Anna's just finalised her report in terms of business fleet and EVs and doing currently submissions to Treasury and that. And hopefully with the new government, can get some traction with that. I look forward to hearing Anna's presentation about that later. And that tax research expertise really complements the tax curriculum at Griffith University. We have the tax major now as part of our business degree, and that really allows our business students to meet the education requirements to be a registered tax agent in Australia. And that, Griffith is one of the few universities that has that suite of courses that allows that. And also it's important in terms of our law students can pick up those tax courses as well in terms of that. Social justice is a big part of Griffith University, and a big part of way that we exemplify that currently, particularly in tax, is the Griffith Tax Clinic. And that's part of the National Tax Clinic program. And essentially what that sees is there's 14 universities around Australia now who essentially provide student-run tax clinics, providing free tax advice to vulnerable members of the community. And so Griffith is is the only university in Southeast Queensland with a tax clinic. James Cook runs one up in Townsville. There's one in Darwin. There's a number in Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmania, Adelaide, and then Curtin University, who kicked it off in Perth, and Edith Cohen is there. And we're lucky that allows our business not only do we get to help the community, but it also allows our students, both business and law students, to get that valuable experience of being a tax advisor in terms of dealing with clients. And we're lucky we've got two of our student tax advisors, well I should actually say co-managers now. We've got Brenton and Kristen, who is managing our tax clinic with our registered tax agent. And so if you're looking for a tax graduate, you couldn't look any better in terms of them. They've really stood up and really learned and really are helping a lot in terms of that. And you know, the clinic itself has now been running for 3 years and we're receiving nearly 1,000 applications, over 500 client meetings. We've had 76 students work at the clinic, and we've also covered nearly about 50 public presentations to about 1,500 attendees. And that's part of it, not only helping people, but to improve their tax literacy so they're actually empowered to do their own. And also, under Melissa's guidance, we were able to operate fully online during COVID, during the lockdown. And so that's great now. We're back on campus in terms of the clinic, but also we're able to operate online, which means now we can service clients, you know, from northern New South Wales and also regional Queensland. So the Tax Researchers Symposium really, you know, the idea of why it started is really to encourage and support tax research at the highest standard. You know, it provides an opportunity for academics and researchers around Queensland, but also around Australia and New Zealand, the UK, the US and Indonesia to present and discuss their current research projects. A lot of the research projects are work in progress, and the idea is get the opportunity to give valuable feedback on those works as they develop. None of the projects are finalised, but that gives you a good idea of what's occurring. Also, we have a large contingent from the Australian Taxation Office here today, both here on campus and also online. And I think it's a great opportunity for that, you know, mingling of ideas and thoughts. Because I did a comment at the ATO last year, and it really highlighted to me how I think I come up with a clever idea, but actually to implement that idea is so hard in terms of administratively, politically, and that communication piece in terms of tax reform. And so I think the more that we can have dialogue between industry, the ATO and academia is really important, because hopefully, you know, the tax system is not perfect and there's, you know, many ways to try to improve it, but sometimes a great idea can actually make the matter worse if you actually don't have the full understanding. And so this is a great opportunity to have that conversation, and I really encourage you during the sessions to provide that feedback, but also you know, to contact speakers after the event and, you know, give them your ideas in terms of that. You know, we've got a great lineup today. We've got 13 presentations, including Professor Neil Buchanan from the University of Florida, who's doing his keynote presentation. Of course, I'd like to thank our sponsor, which is the Law Futures Centre, which is, you know, without their support, is really important, and particularly this year it's hard to get money, and so, you know, Mary Keys, who's the leader there, is really encouraging of tax research, which is great because we're actually, most of us are in the business school, and Mary's in the law school and the Law Future Centre, but is really encouraging of that, and that's really important in terms of our research profiles. Also, need to thank Melanie Davis, who's behind the scenes, who's organised all this and is keeping me on track as much as possible. Without her support, this wouldn't happen. And so I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you, because Melanie will run and hide. With our speakers today, generally the speakers will have 20 minutes each, and we'll do it in groups of 3s, and then we'll have a common Q&A session. So with the speakers, you know, please stick to your time, just as a courtesy to your other speakers. Of course, Neil, you can go on and on and on because you're the keynote, and that's, you know, we really look forward to your insights. For people here, the toilets are just down the corridor. We've got morning tea and lunch provided. For people online, please, if you've got a question, raise your hand during the session. Please have yourself on mute when you're online. A number of you, please have your cameras on, because it's actually, I've learned going to a couple of online conferences, it's nice to see people as you're presenting, because as you know, everyone who's teaching online, it can be like teaching to a black hole sometimes, and it's actually nice to see human faces. And so I encourage a few people online to go, good morning, and because yeah, it's great. And you know, feel free to take photos and post it on LinkedIn, because you know, you're nothing unless you're on social media. And it's important to Well, LinkedIn is evil, but it's actually good. It's a good chance to support each other and acknowledge each other's research and that. I think that is what I covered. Yeah, COVID. I think we all know about that. So that's our agenda today. So we'll try to make sure we stick to that, particularly for people online. That lets them know what the time is. So I'd like to now introduce our keynote speaker. And we're very privileged today to have our keynote speaker. While normally he resides in Florida, he's currently in the UK, in London, en route to Portugal. So it's midnight for Neil, so he's a night owl. So thank you first up, Neil, for joining us tonight. Professor Neil H. Buchanan is a James H. Freeland Eminent Scholar in Taxation and also the Director of Global Scholarly Initiatives at the University of Florida. He frequently lectures and serves as a visiting scholar at universities around the world, most recently at the University of Cambridge, and he's also an external trustee of the Cambridge Student Union. He's nationally and internationally known for his groundbreaking work on intergenerational justice, retirement security, constitutional issues in government budgeting, and a fundamental critique of the orthodox economic theory. In recent years, Professor Buchanan has also become engaged in the question of whether the US political system can survive as a functional constitutional democracy. And that's a really interesting question to be engaged in. He's often quoted in the press and has published essays in the Boston Globe, The Hill, the New York Times, and elsewhere. He graduated from Vassar College, received his JD from the University of Michigan, his PhD in economics from the Harvard University, and then also a PhD in laws from Monash University in Australia. So you're a dual citizen well and truly. Today, Neil will be speaking about how and should nations fund retirement benefits for global workers. Can you please join me in welcoming Professor Neil Buchanan?